helps if I change the scene so we can actually see each other. But hello, welcome. Welcome. Merry Christmas. I did have to pull in this Christmas tree. Uh for this season, of course. And also because of our special collab guest today. But Matilda, hello, welcome. Mansum first, hello. MXer, hello, welcome. Matilda, Merry Crimbo, Mexer, FN 49, very nice. Not a bad poll for sure. But today we have got a special collab guest. Manson, Winchester 1886. Very nice. Cool kind of cowboy gun there. Alright, but special collab guest today. We have Mr. Nicholas, Mr. Claus himself, who will be joining us here in just a second. Those who have been here for a bit at least, have probably heard me say that I do in fact know Santa Claus myself. So we're gonna have him. It's not Satan Claus, not Satan Claus. You might be thinking of Krampus. That is slightly different, very different. But we will be having Mr. Claus on here shortly, which is a very busy time of year for him. So, is great to be able to have him here today. And reminder, it is not Christmas yet, so there's still plenty of time for anyone to be changed between lists. So, do be on your best behavior, of course. But I guess we will give him a call here. Be sure he is ready. All right, let's see. Oh, there he is. Mr. Claus himself.
Merry Christmas. Almost.
Merry Christmas almost. So it is good to have you here. I was just saying how great it is for you to be here, even though you are quite busy this time of year. Always in high demand, of course, but particularly this time of year. Very busy.
Yes, it is a busy time, there's no doubt, but always have time for the count.
Yes. Well, I am very thankful that you're able to stop by and say hello to everyone, kind of hang out for at least a little bit. But it Merry Christmas Eve. Yes. Christmas Adam. I think that was a trend at least a little bit ago. I guess everyone knows Santa, of course. But let's Santa, if you would like, give a nice short introduction. What's going on this year?
Of course. Happy to do so. Certainly, it has been a busy year, a busy time. Lots of people trying to get from the naughty list to the nice list. Some people seem to be trying very hard to get from the nice list to the naughty list. But it's been a busy year, busy time. The reindeer are doing great. The
Very
elves
good.
are doing great, and of course, it's just working to keep everybody in line and prepare for the big night here in a day or two.
Yeah. 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 You've got a busy night coming up. Well, maybe less busy with less people on the nice list. It seems.
Fair enough.
But
But there are
we
so many people.
there are so many people. We do have, for anyone in chat, we do have a form if anyone would like any questions answered. We will be going through this on stream. So if there's any questions you would like, you can submit them there. But we do have some questions for our good guest Santa Claus. So hopefully none of your questions are moving you to the naughty list today. But we will, I guess, start moving into the questions. Not the ATF. Hello, welcome. That's good. The ATF is almost definitely on the naughty list.
Oh, for sure.
So, let us see real quick. Let's see if we can, hold on. Let's see if I can actually do this as well as I planned. Alright, so we have the questions here. So I'm in the way here a little bit. Don't look. There we go. So we've got some questions here for Mr. Claus, Mr. Nicholas. I must ask, what is your preferred title here?
It really depends on the person. Nick is fine, I think.
Nick?
Or
Okay.
Santa, either one is fine.
Okay. Very good. We will go with those. So, we are going to be moving into the viewer submitted questions here. So the first question we have from Dusky. I'm not entirely sure what makes Santa particularly qualified to answer this question, but Santa does know a lot. It's got a list of everybody. Well, 2 lists containing everybody. So, Nick, the G36 in USA in 2025. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think that would be fantastic. I think it is likely that you'll have to satisfy yourself with the somewhat suboptimal version that is available. And
Oh,
I don't see the G36 come to the United States in 2025.
very unfortunate.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overly skeptical, but my lists are pretty accurate.
Sounds like somebody at HK might be getting onto the naughty list next year for not bringing that one through. Is that a possibility?
Well, if they can bring it through, I would be happy to take that into account. But it does sound like it would be a heavy lift for them.
Possibly. That is why the ATF is on the naughty list year after year. So, I guess, well, go to the next question. Anonymous. Probably gonna have a few anonymous questions. This one a little more a little more down Santa's alley here. So there's probably a lot of people who would be interested in the North Pole. Would love to be giving you money specifically to tour the North Pole and Santa's workshop. Why not?
Well, the simple fact is that with all of the work that we have to do up there, we simply don't have time to deal with tourists and give them tours and try to keep them out of the places they shouldn't be. With all
Makes
of
sense. Makes
the
sense.
Yeah, with all the stuff that's going on there, we just don't have time for that. The elves are just as busy as they've ever been. The toys are more complex. We're not getting more funding for more elves, so they have to work harder.
Oh,
And
that's
we can't
true.
have them distracted by tourists. Not
Yeah.
only that, tourists they tend to get in the way, and so as we're trying to move things around, they want to ask the wrong questions at the wrong times, and quite frankly, that's why we've kept the toy shop hidden all these years.
This is true. Anyone who's seen tourists, even in not a particularly magical location, knows that they are quite problematic. So we can only imagine how adding magic into the mix would make things worse.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that things like having the magic dust around, that becomes a security risk for somebody stealing it, and we just don't want to deal with having to defend it.
Oh, that's true. The legal liability is probably significant.
Indeed.
Tourists are OSHA violations. This is true. Not the ATF. Makes a good point.
Well, I'm not actually under OSHA jurisdiction, but the whole international law thing is very difficult.
Yeah, that is true. I I can only imagine. So our next question, also from anonymous, Santa, during your trip around the world, once a year, what is your preferred sleigh carry gun?
Well, I find this question a little bit confusing because it implies that there would only be one gun in the sleigh, and really, it's a big sleigh. There is room for multiple carry guns.
Oh,
Obviously, I'm going to
very
have
based.
right, right. Obviously, I'm going to have a long distance rifle that
Oh,
I that
that
I
is
could
yeah, that is a good point.
right, so I could clear the space ahead of me if there's a an attacker that I can see in the distance. Have to have a very small gun, so if I'm having to sneak down through small exhaust ports and things like that to get into a home, I can carry it with me. And so I really need a plethora of them, if you will.
All right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. Especially I hadn't thought about the the long range aspect since you are flying through the air and it's possible that something
Right,
could be far away.
exactly. And most people don't think about, I need to have it when I'm in the house in case there's an intruder in there that's not supposed to be there like I am. I guess technically I'm an intruder. Don't shoot me. Uh,
I
but
I yeah.
and so I sometimes go through very small holes because I have magic, but the gun still only fits through a hole the size that the gun fits. So I have to carry some very
That
compact ones.
that is true. Unfortunately, guns are not magic. So I do have my own follow up question, not from a viewer, but have you ever had to defend yourself from a non individual entity? Because
And
Santa flying through the air, it would seem that it would be identified as a unidentified flying object and could have some international questions. Have you ever had to deal with that?
well, it's funny you ask that. Uh, obviously, obviously, anywhere that isn't going to be expecting me that night, they work hard to track me through the sky. They they're very careful to try to avoid that kind of thing. So you have uh, the various defense networks tracking me, so people can follow me. They sort of act like it's so the children can follow me. It is really to let the militaries know so that
Okay.
they don't inadvertently fire upon me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
There are
sense,
some
actually.
countries. I'm sorry.
I was just saying that makes a lot of sense.
Right. And there are some countries that either don't follow the tracking or are maybe less disciplined in their military than others that have occasionally inadvertently fired on me. None of them obviously have scored a hit. That's what
That
chaff
is
is
very
for. That's
good.
what various countermeasures are for. And fortunately, I have never had to take one of them down in order to protect us.
Well, that is very good. Hopefully that continues this year. We'd hate for something terrible to happen to Santa and only half of the children to get their gifts this year.
Yes, I am much harder to shoot down than an F-18 or something like that.
And that is true. I don't think an F-18 would be able to get to every child's house in only one night, which is a very
Oh, they
impressive
aren't
feat.
nearly that.
So let's go to our next question here. Also from anonymous. What sidearm is standard issue for the elves, if there is one?
Ah, yes. Well, first of all, we do have a standard issue for the elves. However,
Okay.
we also believe in freedom of choice for the elves. So none of them are required to carry the standard issue gun. We give them choice. We do provide recommendations. And
Okay.
that recommendation was from a competitive bidding process,
Okay.
and the elves
Okay.
themselves got to choose what the standard was.
Very democratic.
Yes, I believe in a democratic process, as long as they keep working hard.
You got to keep
However,
the morale up somehow.
exactly. So after an extensive vetting process and testing process and everything, one would think with elves being somewhat diminutive that they would likely go with a subcompact. But in
That
the
is,
end, after
yeah.
this careful process, the elves actually chose the NP Model 1. Uh,
The MP1.
yes, and it's North Pole Model 1. And that is, of course, as many countries do, we have it rebranded for our uh, for our environment. It's you might know it as the Keltec MP50.
The Keltec
Uh,
MP50. So
yes,
is that a full automatic version of the Keltec P50?
that's exactly correct. And I will tell you, it is somewhat humorous to watch a little elf firing that and emptying a whole magazine of 50 rounds. And the first several are right on target. After that, they kind of get a little uh, spray and pray, if
I
you will.
I would imagine, even even though 5.7 is a fairly low recoil, but that does make a
Yes,
lot of
but they
sense
are fairly
actually.
small individuals.
This is true, but it does make a lot of sense. You've got a little bit of light armor penetration with that, so I'm sure that you want to be prepared for anyone who would stumble upon the North Pole to, in fact, uh, be ready for that.
Well, and I think it's probably kind of intimidating to see an elf carrying a carry gun that is almost as large as the elf.
That would be rather intimidating. I will admit. I would not know what to do in that situation.
I think most people first have to stop laughing.
Well, I guess that gives them a little extra time to aim. Should it come to that?
Exactly.
So our next question here, also from anonymous. A lot of anonymous question askers. They might be afraid of getting moved to the naughty list for some of these questions, I think. Our next question is, how nice does someone have to be to get a gun? I don't know if the nice list is like tiered or if it's just a general nice list, but
Well, we typically don't talk about tiers on the nice list, but it may be that the person wanted to be anonymous here because they were unsure about the not the ATF uh, nom de plume, if you will. Uh,
yeah, I
but
also am concerned.
right, and so it it isn't really how nice somebody has to be to get a gun. However, when Santa is delivering the gifts, I do try to follow local laws and customs. And so generally, since I'm not related to most of the people I give gifts to, I'm not able
This
to
is true.
give a gun. The
Oh,
most I
that is
can do is give a
unfortunate.
certificate. Right.
And so a follow-up question from me about that is, obviously the North Pole in the workshop is outside of United States jurisdiction and any other country. And the United States is not known for its particularly wonderful letting of imports into the country for firearms. So is how far ahead, like if someone is good enough for a gun, how far ahead of time do you have to work with them in order to actually get that in?
Oh yes, it is. It's very complex, and the uh, import paperwork alone is a month long process. So if you're asking for it for
Oof.
this year, I'm afraid I can't get it to you this year. It's simply too late in the process.
Oh, very unfortunate. So to get a gun, for being on the nice list, you have to be very nice already. You can't start being nice just at the holiday season.
Right. You have to basically be nice the year before and then maintain it through the whole following year. It's very difficult.
That yeah, that sounds very difficult. That's probably it's probably why I haven't gotten one.
Well, I won't discuss the particulars of why somebody's on the nice or the naughty list, but it is complex.
It makes that makes a lot of sense. So our next question here, I think is I think someone's gonna be moving to the naughty list for this one. Uh, what do you think of SCP-1471? And if if you aren't aware, because that is a bit of a niche thing, which I'm sure a lot of people on the naughty list are familiar with. It is
Oh,
a
is this
supernatural
the
being.
right? Uh, the is this the one that wears the skull of something else?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's wearing the skull or if the skull is itself, but I,
I see.
you are the supernatural being here, or I guess the more supernatural being. So I guess what are your opinions on them?
Well, in general, I'm not a fan of wearing skulls, or for that matter, talking skulls or uh, animated skulls. They seem rather horrifying to me, and
Yes,
as you
yes.
said, probably would push one toward the naughty list.
Hey, you are a good mythical being. So
I'm a jolly old elf, if you will.
this is very true. So I guess I don't I'm sure that it is confidential information on whether or not this is moving someone or if someone's already on the naughty list. But I'm sure that this has some bearing on that. So our next and last of the planned questions. Anyone in chat, you are free to ask uh, Nick here, Mr. Nicholas, questions as we go along. Our final question here, also anonymous. Lots of anonymous people. What is your favorite gun, and why is it your favorite?
Wow, choosing a single favorite gun is very, very difficult.
Yes, and you have
Uh,
been around for a long time, so you literally have all of them
I've
to
been
choose
around
from.
a long time. Uh, from purely a nostalgia perspective, some of some of the early Gatling guns are really just some really fond memories there
Oh yeah.
when we had those mounted on the sleigh.
Oh, I would
But
imagine.
oh yes, and we could just tear across the sky and leave a trail. Of course, before electric lights, that was even more impressive to see that. We sort of fade into the background now, but so from a nostalgia perspective, some of those I like uh, some of the old black powder guns from years gone by. Those were a lot of fun, although I
That is
certainly
true.
wouldn't use one regularly today.
Yeah, they're very cool. A lot of pretty strong vibes, but they're not particularly useful in today's modern settings.
Exactly, exactly. And so I think, in spite of the nostalgia of all of those, I would really go with a more modern gun. I do like the NP Model One, that
And
the North Pole version of the
that is
Keltec.
true.
It's not a terribly practical gun, but it sure is a lot of fun to shoot. Uh,
I can only imagine.
Oh yes, and in fact, if you don't have access to the machine pistol version, the P50 is also a lot of fun to shoot. It is a little different action than you see in a lot of others, so
That
you
is
have to be
true.
prepared for that.
There's
I
not
wouldn't
many
use it in a
top ejecting
class.
guns today.
Exactly. Uh, but yeah, I think in the end, I would probably go with just something that is very basic, very straightforward, something like a Springfield XDM.
Okay, okay. We do like the good grip zone around here. That's always a fan favorite.
Exactly.
I would love to see the a retro like late 1800s sleigh outfitted with those those Gatling guns though. That would be a sight to behold for sure nowadays.
Yes, I would be tempted to put some modern sporting rifles mounted on the sleigh and put some tracer rounds in there and try to recreate that. But with all the conspiracy theorists around these days, it may just not be worth the trouble that it would cost.
It might make it even more worth the trouble. Because I love watching those guys.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So we do have some questions straight from chat. We're gonna move back over here a little bit. So we've got from Megalum. Megalum would like to know if the North Pole offers any internships for seasonal work.
Oh, yes. We get that question a lot when I am around talking to folks. And the answer is yes, we do offer winter internships. It is a lot of work, it's very rewarding. And if you qualify, you are already aware of it.
Okay, is this like kind of like a Hogwarts situation where you get the secret letter?
Well, in the interest of not violating somebody else's copyright, I'm not going to say it's a Hogwarts situation, but it's kind of a Hogwarts situation.
Okay, that does make a lot of sense actually. We have let's see from Never Enough Ammo. Is wondering if you are responsible for the chemtrails.
Oh, well, oddly enough, that's another question we get a lot. And the easiest way to disprove that theory is that chemtrails are least likely to be seen around Christmas and most likely to be seen when people have nothing better to do.
That makes too much sense actually. But I would imagine that the the supersonic, possibly even close to light speed travel of the sleigh during Christmas, does that leave any kind of atmospheric disturbance?
Oh, it certainly would if we didn't have some magic to deal with the potential physics violations. But fortunately, a little magic dust, we can cover most of that up. And it takes pretty sophisticated radar to find us.
I, it makes a lot of sense. Magic does go a long ways, especially as everyone's leaning more towards science these days.
Exactly.
We have from Majestic Potato. If Santa is a vampire, as X wants to gaslight everyone into believing, you can understand the red suit, but why the white trim? You'd imagine it'd be inconvenient for bloodstains. That's a
So
kind of a
this is
loaded
a
question
very,
there.
yes, it's a very loaded question. And first of all, Count, I'm a little disappointed in you. That was not supposed to be something you made public. Uh,
Oh.
and just because of the negative stigma around vampirism, uh, really a lot of misunderstanding there, a lot of uh, perhaps Hollywood depictions that are less than accurate. Uh, but the other thing is the vampires that have really been most, oh, shall we say, publicized are really sort of the vampire equivalent of vegans. They have convinced themselves that human blood is what's healthy for them, and they have chosen that over the omnivorous lifestyle. And by omnivorous, I of course mean all kinds of animals and such. Uh, I personally am a big fan of pork and beef, but really
That,
any
that makes
animal will
sense.
do. And uh, humans aren't even all that healthy for you.
That is true. I'm sure everyone here has seen humans and is not quite appetized.
I mean, have you seen what they eat?
I have seen what humans eat, and it is some of it's pretty okay. The bad stuff seems like it sticks around a while though.
It does, and for majestic potato, just as far as the last piece, the white with the white trim. First of all, uh, that is a problem with any kind of food. The white trim and the white beard will catch crumbs. They will catch drops. It is a mess. But if as long as one is careful, we can deal with all that. And while I do prefer my meat rare, it's not it's not terribly difficult to keep it off the white fur.
Yeah, that does make sense. It's vampires aren't all savages. We vampires can use utensils as well. So,
Exactly.
from Majestic Potato again. Apparently, he's seen chemtrails glowing in the night sky, and he's blaming you for these.
Well, while fascinating, chemtrails are generally not going to be associated with magic dust. Magic dust would actually make a darker stream in the sky,
Oh,
which makes
very
it very, very
interesting.
hard. So if potatoes saw them glowing in the night sky, it was obviously something different than magic dust, because again, that actually makes things darker, not more glowy.
And very interesting. I didn't know that. I'll have to keep a lookout for slightly darker lines in the night sky.
Yes, they're very difficult to see.
So you mentioned that your favorites are pork and beef. I may already know the answer to this, but why not reindeer?
Uh, well, I sort of work with reindeer, and you don't eat your coworkers.
That
It's
that's
it's sort of bad for business.
that's kind of what I assumed on that one.
But I will say, polar bear is delicious.
Ooh, I would imagine. I would imagine a lot of fat to keep everything nice and moist in that.
Very fatty. You need to cook it long enough to render well, but yes, very delicious.
Yeah. I would imagine it takes quite a while to cook. Although in comparison to your incredible lifespan, it can't be that long.
Oh no, I've got the patience to wait.
Not the ATF says that those glowing trails are clearly the government if they're glowing.
Well, first of all, not the ATF may be protesting too much that he's not part of the Fed. However, uh, on the other hand, makes an excellent point.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Although there are other magical beings that do have the ability of flight that, well, I was an expert, could also be leaving those trails.
That's true. That's true.
And we've got never enough ammo. Does polar bear have a Coca-Cola aftertaste?
That's a really interesting question. And while it's not really a Coca-Cola taste, if you've ever had uh, meat that has been marinated in Coca-Cola or Dr. Pepper, it provides
Oh,
a kind of a sweet, smoky flavor to it. And you can think of the polar bears, particularly of that particular group that Coca-Cola uses in their advertising, as being pre-marinated.
interesting, interesting. I didn't know that. It's humans don't eat much polar bear, and I, living with humans, unfortunately have not had the opportunity to try polar bear yet.
Well, you're probably not supposed to these days. They appear to be dwindling in numbers a little bit. We're hoping to bring them back in the North Pole and get our own uh, flocks, if you will. Herds is a better term.
In- Interesting. I didn't know that that was a grazing animal in the North Pole, but it makes sense. They're pretty large. A lot of stuff you can do with a polar bear.
Well, really, they graze on whatever wanders into their field.
Yeah, that I can imagine. From Majestic Potato, do seals, orca, and other aquatic Arctic animals taste more like fish or pork beef or something else?
Well, that sort of depends on what semi-aquatic animal you are talking about. Uh, some of them certainly have a fishy flavor, but the a lot of them are a darker or red meat, uh, and it varies quite a bit by how mature they are, by uh, how they have eaten, and so forth. But a lot of them are uh, a lot of them are really kind of fishy, but more reminiscent of land animals.
I mean, that does make a lot of sense.
So if you can think of them as being kind of like beef with a slightly uh, fishy or gamey flavor.
Yeah, that I guess that does make
Kind of like
sense.
polar bear, pretty oily, pretty greasy.
Yeah, I mean the larger fish that humans normally eat, like tuna and stuff. If you get them fresh, they don't taste very fishy. So it makes quite a bit of sense.
Correct. Right, and just like tuna, if you get it fresh, uh, nothing better than a very rare or even a uh, an uncooked slab.
Yeah, yeah. So Majestic Potato is wonders what guns one is entitled to if they're on the nice list, and what guns are given to naughty listers.
Well, so the very question itself is interesting, and that is because first of all, there is no entitlement at all. One is not entitled to a gun by being on the nice list.
Sounds like
One
someone's trying to
may get a
skip onto the
gun
naughty
if
list.
it right, and uh, it's not really something you are entitled to. But if one has been particularly nice, and if we can get through the import things we talked about earlier, uh, then we can really just about any legal gun is fair game, if you will. As far as if you're on the naughty list, first of all, uh, if Santa gave even a lousy gun to somebody on the naughty list, it's still a pretty good gift,
That's
because
true.
a lot of us would love to have a terrible gun as a conversation piece or an interesting piece to talk about, even if we never wanted to fire it.
I
Um,
I feel a little personally attacked on that one. I'm gonna be honest. Uh,
no, a lot of us feel that way. A lot of us would love to have these guns simply because of quite frankly, because of how terrible they are.
yeah, this is true. This is true. A lot of the terrible guns are very good conversation pieces.
Right. So one that I would sort of be tempted to give somebody if they were on the night list, but just couldn't because it's such an interesting conversation piece. Is one called the gyrojet pistol.
Oh yes,
That is a fascinating pistol.
yeah.
Uh,
Those
Terribly
are
inept.
very uh poorly designed, but very interesting. I do like that they
Right.
sometimes will shoot their own barrel down the range, which is probably not ideal.
Yeah, you really don't want a gun to do that. And quite frankly, if somebody's on the naughty list, I'm worried about them doing something uh, with their gun that will make it harder for the rest of the people who want to be responsible with them.
That does make sense. A lot of the people who were on the naughty list and repeatedly on the naughty list, you probably don't want having any kind of firepower at all. Maybe even not a
Right.
kitchen knife.
Uh, People can do silly things even with kitchen knives. So yes.
So going back to the food topic here again. Does eating veal push you towards the naughty list?
Oh, veal is delicious. Reindeer and like North American deer are only very distantly related. And no, veal is there's nothing wrong with eating veal. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of venison. Veal. Does eating veal put you on the list? I feel a little bad about the calf that didn't get to grow up into a full-grown cow and wander freely in the enclosed pasture. However, with that said, uh, that is not something that is a nice or naughty list item. It really is personal conscience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. People have been eating all kinds of ages of animals since basically the dawn of time. So there's
Exactly.
no reason to that would change anything now. So not the ATF. That's maybe a little bit of a suspicious question coming from them. What is your favorite kind of cookie?
Oh, that is a very interesting question. Uh, if we assume that this is truly not the ATF, my least favorite kind of cookie is the tracking cookie that the ATF might be putting on your computer. Uh, but favorite kind of cookie, as you are aware, Count, I am a big fan of cookies of all kinds. Uh,
This
I
yes, this is
particularly
very true.
though, yes, absolutely. I particularly like the sugar cookies that are decorated. Sugar cookie without decoration, sort of not worth eating. But when they're decorated, I don't know, they just hit better. And then my all-time favorite though is a warm, soft, gooey chocolate chip cookie, kind of a
Oh,
Nestle
a
Toll House kind
classic,
of cookie.
a classic
Yes.
always. And then along with that, as someone who is very well known for their consumption of sweets, heavily cookies, uh, what is your workout routine?
Ah, yes. As you can imagine, eating even a single cookie from every child's house, it puts a strain on the metabolism with the number of calories consumed.
I would imagine
And
that is a
so,
high number of calories right there.
right. And so, there was a recent movie uh, called Red One. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but in the movie Red One, it shows the Santa, who is terribly unrealistic, by the way. Uh, it shows him, and he makes a comment about something along the lines of burning 4.8 million calories on Christmas Eve. Now, that part is true. I do burn a tremendous number of calories on that night, but it also showed his workout routine.
It
And
did it did.
as you might imagine, jolly old elf. So my workout routine is a lot more fun than just lifting heavy weights up and down. I'm going to be running and jumping and throwing things around to see if I can hit other things. And so I do move a lot of heavy weights, but I'm not
that
going to just move them up and down. That's kind of dull.
that makes a lot of sense. Also sounds more useful for your one big day a year. You're not just moving stuff up and down. You gotta move them sideways and maybe throw them
Right.
across
It's
the room
all
to
about
hurry.
functional fitness. Functional fitness.
That makes a lot of sense. I feel like there has been quite a push towards functional fitness recently as well. There is, we do have a deer, Matilda, the deer tuber, in chat. Might be a little concerned that when you said that eating venison didn't move you to the naughty list. Uh, so maybe let's not eat Matilda, but the other
Yes,
ones.
certainly Matilda would not be on the menu.
Hey, don't eat the deer that can talk to you. I think is probably a is that a safe assumption?
In fact, I will go beyond that. I will say, don't eat anything that is smart enough to talk to you.
That is very some words of wisdom to live by. Uh, well, unless you're a vampire, perhaps.
Well, even we vampires, as we mentioned earlier, we're not the vegans of the supernatural world. We know we can live on more than just uh, the blood of live humans.
Yeah, that is true. We did talk about that earlier. You you are correct. So I guess we've been asking you a lot of questions about yourself. Are there any any questions that you receive a lot that you really like answering?
A surprising number of children uh, will come to me, and when I ask what they want for Christmas, they will come up with very strange and unusual things. Uh, I had
I would imagine.
a I had a child, and some of them are uh, just ludicrous on their face. I had about a 5-year-old child say that he wanted a golden Lamborghini, but not a Hot Wheels. He wanted a real one.
Wow,
He
that is
was
very specific.
he was disappointed when I pointed out that since he did not have a license and could not for several years, that he was not eligible for such a thing. Uh, I was a little concerned about him and what he might want to do with his golden Lamborghini, but that was interesting. Uh, there are also children that just warm my heart when I ask them what they want, and they say things like, "I don't want anything. I just want my family to be happy." Which
Oh.
you sort of expect adults to say that because they're supposed to. The children, you expect to be a little more self-centered, and it was really encouraging.
It
So,
sounds like
uh,
those kids are definitely on the nice list for sure.
oh, they're definitely on the nice list. And then I will get some young adults that will come and talk to me and will say things like, "Santa, I want my boyfriend back," and I'm required to point out to them that, in fact, if they didn't have their boyfriend anymore, there was a reason they broke up in the first place, and they should consider that because, of course, I know I've been watching, and I know the boyfriend in that case, particularly not great dude, and she didn't really want him back. She was just lonely.
That makes a lot of sense. People don't really expect relationship advice from Santa, but as a
Exactly.
as a being that really can see anything he wants to, makes a lot of sense actually.
Really, nobody better suited. What's up, Guns and Knives?
So I guess I know that I'm not gonna kick you off here, but I know that it is a very busy time of year for you. So if you do have North Pole duties that do need to be attended to, do let me know so I don't keep you too long. We don't want to cause any issues for Christmas for sure. But
No, I think if you did that, it would put you on the naughty list. But
oh, that
I
means I'm not on
also
the naughty
don't
list
want
yet.
to.
We got it. We we got it.
Well, I don't want to run away on your stream or on the group that have come to ask questions. So if there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. Again, I don't want to run away. But if there aren't any more questions, then I will let go here. So
Guns and Knives says that you have better manners than me because you had talked to him faster than I did when he showed up. Uh, throwing a little bit of shade uh, towards me, of course.
well, a couple of things I'll say about that. First of all, Guns and Knives. Uh, I have better manners than just about anybody, and that's to be expected. I've mentioned the whole jolly old elf thing. Uh, but in addition to that, I think it's worth giving the Count here a little bit of credit because he was trying to keep the stream going earlier as people were coming on as we got started. He was greeting everybody by name as they joined in, and I was just sitting here watching. So I was kind of trying to get the feel for how things were going, and he was greeting everybody then. So sorry you missed that, but I was glad one of us got a shout out for you.
And you do also, you probably had a little bit of you could see that he was coming, of course. So you had a little bit more
I,
warning. I had to wait for the text and I had to read it, and everyone knows that I am bad at that. But let's see if anyone else has any other particular questions for you. I did have another. Oh, Guns and Knives is claiming, slandering, that I am abusive, and I would like to specify that this is slander.
Abusive seems like a very strong term for what appears to the one who watches all to be banter.
Thank you, Nick, for that one. I just got to clear my name on that a little bit.
So I'm scrolling through the text to see if there's anything else that people commented on that we didn't have a chance to talk about.
There's been a bit. There's unfortunately I'm sorry if we missed something, but
I don't think there are any questions that we missed, but there were several people that toured the armory and got uh, various guns to use for the day. I'm curious what if any of your attendees here have thoughts on the gun they pulled and what makes that the perfect gun for today.
well, that is true. It's true. There've been a very very wide variety of both very good and less than ideal, probably, uh, guns pulled from the armory today. But I did have another question for you. The other day, we were talking with some random people, and there were some people who were claiming to be uh, your helpers, granting people wishes for what they were gonna get this Christmas. And I was wondering if they were sanctioned by you, or if they were imposters, or if a mix of
On the
mix of the two.
stream,
They showed up on stream. One of
yes,
them
and
offered
so
me any material thing that I could ask for.
yes, and so there have been lots of movies made about those that would offer any material thing you could ask for. And I will just say that if you jump to the end of those movies, spoiler alert, that's never the good guy.
So it does sound like they may not have been sanctioned by you.
Definitely not sanctioned by me. And now, even a stop clock is right twice a day for those of you that are old enough to remember analog clocks. But yeah, so they could have had some things that are right, but in general, not sanctioned by me. No.
that that makes a lot of sense. From Guns and Knives, we talked about this a little bit, but do you pack heat when you are delivering the presents to the kids inside?
Well, you never know. Covering that many houses in as short a time span as I have to do, when I might slide down the chimney or through a small opening and find that there is an actual intruder in the home, and so I have to always be prepared so I don't leave the rest of the children unable to have Christmas because I couldn't get there. So of
Oh, that is
course,
true.
yes.
That is true. We
But
have heard news stories of people breaking into people's houses pretending to be Santa and stealing presents.
exactly, very disappointing. And I have never had to actually use one in anger. It turns out a little mad. You can wind up with them trussed up by the fireplace, waiting for the Grinch to arrive. But always come prepared.
It makes sense. And I can only imagine people's reactions to find someone tied up by a tinsel uh, in their living room.
Yes, it's very entertaining to think about. Of course, I can't stay around to watch it.
That is, you have a lot of places to be. Megalum VT would like to know if they can get a Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas.
Well, I will think about it, Megalon VT, but I am a little concerned you might put your eye out.
That's unfortunate. Sounds like someone isn't quite high enough on the nice list, perhaps. Uh, if that's a concern.
I think that's just the only possible answer to that question.
Eh, Guns and Knives, Guns and Knives does like the classic stuff. A
Oh, yes,
good
excellent.
analog watch always looks good.
Yes, an analog wristwatch look good. If you really want to go classic, though, you go with the classic pocket watch. And then, of
Ooh,
course, you have to have a vest pocket to put it in and all those. It's a whole thing,
man, Guns
but
and
it is
Knives
a
just got
classic look.
out hipstered by Santa.
I've had more practice.
Yeah, I guess you have been around for a bit longer than I would guess everyone here.
I would assume so, yes.
See, so Guns and Knives wants to know, can you bring bullets and beef jerky? And we talked about the restrictions for importing guns from the North Pole. But is there anything about bullets or ammo?
Well, some of that is certainly uh, problematic. It's also we run into the gross weight limits. Even the sleigh has gross weight limits, and ammo is kind of heavy.
That is
But the
true.
beef jerky we could probably do.
Yeah, and beef jerky is, I I think everyone would be okay with some beef jerky for Christmas. It's probably
Indeed.
one of the most popular snacks.
And guns and knives, you are correct. A pocket watch with a waistcoat is a really cool look.
Yeah, I do think we should bring back some of those old styles. New styles are neat. We need a little variation, in my opinion.
I wonder if we can get everybody back to wearing this kind of a look. I think it's really a classic look. Maybe it depends on where you live. It might be a little too warm for some places, but I think the hat with the little tassel on the end, the fancified suit with the belt around the waist. I think
That
it's a
is
classic look.
that is a very classic look. I don't know if anyone besides you might be able to pull off the bright red, but a nice like brown I think would go a long ways.
Sure, sure. And
Akira,
yes, the bright red is sort of a trademark.
it is. We wouldn't want to uh, infringe on your copyright or patents or anything you may have on your look there. Yeah, Akira.
I do
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I do like the long trench coats with the fedora, like in the 30s and 40s. However, if you're having to move quickly, the long trench coat is problematic. You can trip on it, and
Oh,
so
that is
that's
true.
why you can see the coat I have now is a little shorter up at the thigh level, not past the knees. It really is with as fast as I have to move. Need to be a little more nimble than that.
I would imagine that if you tripped on a long coat as you're going as fast as you have to get to everybody, might lead to some disasters.
Right. We certainly don't want to reproduce the opening to the movie The Santa Claus, and have somebody else have to take on the role.
That is true. It's a very big role to be Santa Claus. You wouldn't want someone to unknowingly be foisted into that role.
Exactly.
See, so from Akira, I don't know if it's possible. They'd like a MIDI keyboard with the keyboard and built-in drum.
Wow, Akira, I wish you had asked that before the 23rd of December. It may or may not be possible in the short time we have left. Obviously, the amount of time I have left to get some of these things figured out is pretty limited right now. But we'll see what we can do. We'll see if the elves can get that pulled together in time. Uh, Again, pretty short time frame for that,
That
and a
that
pretty specific ask. So it's not one we get asked a lot.
yeah, I doubt you've got a warehouse full of those like you do with some other things like Xboxes or
Right.
PlayStations.
Toy trains, got lots of those, PlayStations all over the place. But yes, the MIDI keyboards are a little more niche.
I would imagine. I guess going off the production line there, do you ever outsource some of your work to other companies?
Sure. So while I don't want to I don't want to give away all of our secrets, some of these shortages that have been experienced in recent years for some of the hot gifts were
Yeah.
not purely because the companies couldn't produce enough. Sometimes when the elves have some new technology, they're not very quick at producing it, and so
Oh, that
we
makes
will
sense.
go out. Yeah, so we'll go out when a new PlayStation model comes out. We will we will buy some of them from the manufacturer, and obviously we can take a big portion of their inventory, and so
I would
we will
imagine
certainly have them help out.
I would imagine the North Pole has quite a bit of asking power when it comes to things like that.
Exactly. Nobody wants to say no to Santa Claus. In rare occasions, I've had to actually do the negotiations myself to let them know that we were serious. But obviously, people want to help out whenever they can, and so that is a case where we will do it. Obviously, after the first year or two, the reason there aren't those continued shortages is because the elves then have gotten to be good enough at making their own. We no longer have to get it from the company.
That makes sense. It is usually cheaper to in the long run to make something in house. Uh, Another question from Megalum. Will the North Pole ever surplus out any guns from its forces? Looking for a North Pole marked Glock or service weapon.
Well, that's an interesting idea that I've not considered very much. We don't have a lot of Glocks at the North Pole, and so it may be that we couldn't get that particular one for you. We have not sourced the guns from our security forces before. It is a whole thing to export them because first we have to clear them of any magical powers, and that
That
is
makes
that
sense.
is more than the ATF's guidelines on how to get a move from a security force to the general populace. Uh, and so obviously that those are powers that we can't just be handing out willy nilly. Uh,
That does make
but
sense.
take that under advisement.
Yeah, the the ATF is pretty strict even with, you know, cut up non-magical guns. So I can only imagine how restrictive they would be about things that may have at once had magical qualities.
Right. And we certainly wouldn't do something silly like selling you a cut up gun. That's just unkind.
That's true. Luckily, the I don't think the North Pole is on any international sanctions or anything that would stop imports. So And Guns and Guns and Knives is saying that your elf troops carry HKs and Daniel defense rifles. So we
Oh,
talked about
some of them
the
do. Some
standard sidearm, but there are there any specialty guns?
so we certainly have the the standard, which we talked about before. I think Guns and Knives joined the chat, but the standard is still the NP Model One, which is of course the North Pole version of the Keltec MP50. However, we also provide freedom to our elves and to our other security forces to choose others, and so there are some that choose an HK, that choose a Daniel Defense. Uh, but any specialty gun they would like, we support as long as they are safe with it and are trained with it.
That makes that makes a lot of sense. If you're willing to trust somebody with a full auto version of the P50, I would imagine that they'd be perfectly fine with just about everything. And we not the ATF. You might be breaking your cover there a little bit. Unfortunately, the policy is once a magical gun, always a magical gun. So
Yes, the ATF has a lot of policies that don't really make sense once they are really examined, and that is one that we currently have no control over, other than perhaps it will be overturned at some point in the future when sanity once again reigns.
hopefully one day. Uh, from Akira again. The other gift they'd like is more simple. Witch's hoodie from the musical artist. Just a hoodie.
Just a hoodie, huh? Well, hoodies are certainly a little bit easier to get a hold of, and that might be doable.
Yeah, I a follow up question from me on that. When you give gifts that are related to a an artist or any kind of media, do you have to pay any kind of royalties to them, or do you just get permission to use that across the board?
Most artists will give us permission. We sort of fit a special classification, and quite frankly, most artists, although they may put a dark or a serious face forward for the world, in the end, they're all kids at heart, and they want to stay on the nice list.
That is true. I would hate to be on the naughty list just because I said Santa couldn't use a logo or something. That's seems like
Exactly.
a trivial thing. And Guns and Knives. Are the rumors that the North Pole has been in a war with penguins at the South Pole for centuries true?
That's
I've
an
not heard that
interesting
rumor.
question. Right. It's an interesting question. It comes up every decade or so. These rumors restart, and I don't know where the rumors started. I think it really was that the polar bears and the penguins had sort of a cold war, sort of a feud, if you will, because for a long time people had a hard time remembering which one was in the North Pole, which one was at the South Pole, and
That makes a lot of sense.
right. And then when they started, dressing uh, the polar bears in Christmas wear for Coca-Cola commercials and things like that, people then made the assumption that we were at war. But as it turns out, no, we get along well with our penguin brothers, and we really enjoy their company. And quite frankly, they're not that scary as an invading force. They're slow and they can't even fly. So just really, it would be unsporting to go to war with them.
I that's very. It seems like it'd be very true. I don't know how the penguins would feel about that, but it does seem like it is true. So Akira has got another question. This is probably one you get quite a bit. Um, How do you transport the presents? Since there's billions of children, which either means mass bag or however you carry the presents, is it bigger inside, like the TARDIS, or do you use magic?
Oh, that's a fantastic question, and you are correct, Count. We do get that question a lot, uh, and the fact is that both of those answers are correct. It is bigger inside, like the TARDIS, but the TARDIS depends on some futuristic technology that is just made up, whereas ours is actually based on magic, which exists today. So it is that it is bigger. The sack is bigger on the inside because of the magic, and so the real logistical struggle, and it is a logistical problem, is to load the sack in the right order so that when I reach into the
Oh,
sack at each home, I can pull the right gifts out. And and very seldom have we had a mix up. Uh, there was a little guy who really wanted a bicycle, who got a Barbie and some things like that. But other than that, we've been able to keep things pretty straight by very strict logistical processes to load the bag. And of course, you have to load the bag when it's already in the sleigh, because once it has all those gifts in it, it's pretty difficult to move.
I I would imagine that is potentially billions of gifts. So I would imagine it's a little heavy. And Guns and Knives wants to know if you had anything to do with the Christmas truce of 1914 and World War One. That's actually a good question. I've never even considered the possibility, but that was that was quite a touching story.
Yes, so I think the answer is only peripherally did I have a something to do with that. Excuse me. I only peripherally had something to do with that, and the reason I say that is that this really was the spreading of goodwill and cheer across the battle lines. Now, a cynic might say that it was just all of these people trying to act in a way to get their children on the nice list. But I prefer to think that it was really the seasonal uh, good cheer and well wishes, and the realization that the people they were fighting, although there were lots of important reasons for the war, that they were just people, and they that it made sense for them all to take seriously the idea of peace on earth and goodwill for men, even just for a short time. And again, peripherally, maybe in that I embody a lot of the spirit of Christmas, but really, I prefer to think of it as people taking seriously the desire for peace on earth and goodwill toward men.
That I guess that's an answer to a question that I had not thought of. So that is good to know. That that we can still put some faith in people every now and then.
Oh, I see that Akira has adopted a common but perhaps questionable uh, belief about the TARDIS. About it could exist because it's a plant. The interesting thing is, it grows like a plant, but is perhaps not a plant in our understanding of a plant. Uh, so again, it's a technological plant, perhaps, but it's sort of a cyborg, if you will, crosses the line between a plant and a machine.
That is far outside of my realm of expertise. So I'm glad that you were able to to acknowledge that and answer that.
But the more important part of that conversation is, unlike magic, that's based on a futuristic thing that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's true. Plants can in fact be fictional, but as we all know, Santa magic is very much real.
Exactly.
Uh, from Akira, how do you get into house place? Oh goodness, I can't read anymore. This happens to streamers sometimes. you get in, you get into houses to place presents by the chimney, but how do you get into places without a chimney, like apartments?
Excellent question. And without giving away all of the secrets, there have been many attempts to answer this. Some of the movies I mentioned earlier would show a radiator transforming into a fireplace that I would jump into, or things like that. Actually, none of those are quite right. And again, it goes back to a similar answer to what I provided elsewhere to other questions, and that is it comes down to the simple expedient of magic. While a chimney is the most convenient and the quickest, I do like homes with chimneys. Uh, if there isn't a chimney, uh, say for an apartment building, I have a sack, a portable sack that goes outside of the sleigh that I can fill with all the gifts for that apartment, and I have a magic key that I can get into each door with. That key transforms to match each lock, and before anybody asks, it certainly is not something that the government would allow me to market and sell. That would concern them greatly.
I can
But
only
a
imagine.
magic key will actually be in the door.
I did not know that. I had always thought that the skeleton key was only a thing of myth, but if it was to exist, being in the hands of Santa is probably where I would put it.
Well, that's actually why we call it the skeleton key. It sort of distances its image from what people think of as Santa Claus, and so people don't think to put them together. I'd appreciate it if you all could keep that to yourselves.
We will do our best on that one. We wouldn't want to be on the on the naughty list because we gave away a little secret like that.
Exactly.
The Guns and Knives, it would have been awesome if the Christmas truce had spread across the entire front line and the soldiers on all sides had just decided to go home. I that that would have been awesome. Would have led to a very interesting alternate history, but I don't think the problems that the war had started to resolve would have been resolved if that had happened.
Right. It would have been an interesting alternate history. Maybe we could have avoided some of the things between the two world wars that arguably led to the Second World War. So it would have been it's an interesting thought exercise to think about how that could have turned out.
So, Akira, you always thought that Santa knock on the door and the parents would let you in to and hand you the cookies and milk.
Yeah, that is a common thought that we might do that. I might do that. As it turns out, though, that is simply trying uh, to kind of half deny the magic of Santa Claus, and relies on the parents to be involved. But for some reason, a lot of parents are skeptics about Santa Claus, which they couldn't be if I knocked on the door and asked them for cookies and milk. The other thing to point out is that if I were to knock on the door and ask for cookies and milk, the guy comes dressed in a funny suit and knocks on your door, asks for cookies and milk. You might let him have cookies and milk, but you'd be pretty hesitant to let him just wander through your house. So I have to find
That's
other ways to
true.
get through.
I would imagine that it's also nice to let the parents sleep because I would bet that they are in the middle of quite a few very busy days.
Oh, indeed, and children are exhausting. I love them, but they're exhausting.
That is, if anyone would know that, it would be you. Uh, from Akira, have you ever considered taking extra cookies and milk that aren't set out? If you got really hungry, like for example, if you had a few houses in a row that didn't leave you anything.
Well, again, I would appreciate if this doesn't go beyond this group, but have you ever had the time around the holidays where you were pretty sure that you had a Tupperware dish full of leftovers in the fridge, and when you went to get it, you couldn't find it, and you thought somebody else in the house ate it. That might have been me if it was right around Christmas. On occasion, if some folks have not remembered to leave the cookies out, I do get a little famished. And if there are some leftovers that look like they might not be enjoyed before their best by date, if you will, I will sometimes help myself. But I always am sure to wash the dishes and put them away, so at least you aren't left with dirty dishes in the morning.
That is very considerate, and it doesn't make sense when you, especially after we learned exactly how many calories you burn in one night. It's probably important that you don't go too much in the negative.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah, from Guns and Knives, we already had this question earlier, but what is your favorite kind of cookie?
Again, I like all kinds of cookies, and I will not turn any down. Uh, but again, the sugar cookies, if they are decorated, very very good. If they're not decorated, I'm not very interested. Uh, and then the Toll House cookies are the ultimate favorite, especially if they're warm and kind of gooey. But any kind of cookie, including the cookies that come from the store, like the Oreos and so forth, are good. Uh, those fake Oreos that are vanilla and things like that, don't bother with those. Those barely even count as cookies.
So there we got Santa's favorite and least favorite cookies, probably. From Akira, have you ever had expired milk that someone accidentally left out for you?
Yes, and that is a horrible feeling right after ingesting a delicious, particularly with a delicious Toll House gooey warm cookie. You just want to wash it down with a couple of swallows of ice cold milk, and then you take a big gulp of that milk and realize it has gone bad. It is really an unpleasant thing. But I always simply go along and realize that it was a mistake, and so they don't get moved to the naughty list. It's simply an error. And I if they have a soda or something in the fridge, I will probably wash out my mouth with that and enjoy the soda on the way to get those calories I would otherwise be missing.
That that seems very fair. Seems very fair. And along with that, perhaps, have you ever had to use the bathroom in someone's house while you are handing out all the gifts?
No, and that's because the sleigh is fully outfitted. Uh, if you think about the most tricked out RV you can imagine, and now you make it fly with reindeer. That tricked out RV it has all the facilities necessary. So all I have to do if I am in an emergency situation is go up use the facilities in the sleigh while I'm transiting to the next house. And that's important because I'm on a tight timeline. I'm on a tight schedule, and so it's important to be able to stay on that schedule. Uh, I will say that the elves who have maybe drawn the less pleasant duty are the ones responsible for cleaning out the sleigh at the end and all that. And well, we try to give them a good year-end bonus for their extra work that is perhaps less pleasant than some of the other work.
I can't imagine that would perhaps be the short straw. Although hopefully the bonus makes up for it.
Exactly.
Guns and Knives would like to know if you remember the time that he left out pizza and beer for you instead of cookie and milk.
I do remember the time, and obviously, uh, anytime that there's a request to leave out pizza and beer for Santa, the reason that I ask for cookies and milk is they are very, very fast calories and fast energy. With as quickly as I'm burning, I need those quick sugar calories. And so the pizza, while
Makes sense. Makes sense.
it's got a lot of calories, they aren't as quick into the metabolism. And the beer, obviously, uh, don't drink and fly. So obviously, I'm not going to do that when I'm going from house to house. That might be the year. I don't remember exactly, but that might be the year that your father wound up on the naughty list for misleading his child.
I would imagine though with how fast your metabolism is, I would imagine that even if you drank a significant amount of alcohol, you would burn through it almost instantly.
Oh yeah, the buzz is pretty much gone by the time I get to the roof, but you never can be too careful.
That is true. That is makes a lot of sense. See, from Akira, have you ever considered transforming your look to hide within the populace and observe how people are?
That's a secret. Don't tell anybody that either.
So sounds like a solid maybe.
I'm afraid I can neither confirm nor deny that. Uh, but I will say, Akira, that you don't hear about me most of the rest of the year to be somewhere.
That is true. You could be pretty much anywhere. I don't think anyone would, even if you didn't change your appearance. I don't think anyone would bat an eye to a happy looking man with a beard.
Right. I probably would have to at least change to a different suit.
Yeah, the red suit may give you away, but
Indeed.
other than that, so from Akira, what is your opinion on their dad using talking to you to skip over their house as a punishment for misbehavior?
Well, Akira, that is something that a lot of parents will do is and that is uh, to use me basically as a bludgeon for their children to behave. But as it turns out, your father is not responsible for the nice and naughty list. I am responsible for the nice and naughty list, and I will occasionally get a call from a parent requesting that I skip their house because their child has been particularly naughty. But I know that in the end, it is just that parent's fatigue talking, and they would really be sad for their child if I did skip for a child who really belonged on the nice list. So I just kind of chuckle and shrug it off, and I explain to them, and I try to give them a good night's rest on Christmas Eve as their gift from me.
that that makes way too much sense. Uh, you are full of more answers than I could possibly have ever thought of answering. So from not the ATF, with all the upgrades that your sleigh has gotten, we did talk about the Gatling guns and the bathroom. Is there anything that has not been replaced? Is there any original parts of the sleigh left, or have they all been replaced through the years?
Yes, that's an excellent question. And there's actually is a it's a very interesting question, particularly the sort of philosophical question at the end of if there's nothing original left, is it still the same sleigh? And the answer is, and somebody from the ATF would love this answer, I think. Uh, as long as there is at least a tiny piece that is still from the original, it is still considered the same sleigh. And we actually have, and you're right, we have replaced many parts over the years. There is a small brass bauble that goes right on the rear of the sleigh that we are very protective of. That might be the only piece that's left from the original, but every every upgrade we've made sure to keep that bauble handy and close by so that we can always have the same sleigh.
That I gotta keep at least a little reminder of the first sleigh. I would imagine there's quite a bit of nostalgia there for that. So from Guns and Knives, uh, Santa, what did you do before taking up the mantle of Father Christmas?
Well, obviously, well known as Saint Nicholas, and was actually part of the early Christian church, and one of my favorite memories is at the Council of Nicaea slapping Arius. And a lot of people tell you that's not actually true; that it's purely legend. Uh, but you know, just a normal guy trying to do my best. In retrospect, Arius, normal guy trying to do his best, and things got heated. So yeah, I was big into theology.
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of people seem to forget that Saint Nicholas was in fact a real guy for some reason.
I prefer is
You're
count.
you're right. My apologies. My apologies. From Akira, what do you think of the people who steal your identity to gain funds? Do they get put on the naughty list for identity theft, or do they get put on the nice list for spreading happiness?
Well, I guess it really depends on why they are doing it. Now, there are some that are officially licensed Santa Claus stand-ins, if you will, and obviously those we have a licensing agreement, uh, and we simply use that to ensure that the funds are in fact going to where they're supposed to. Um, but there the others fall into two camps. The first is those who truly are using my identity to get funds purely to scam people, or when the majority of those funds don't go to where they're supposed to. And by the majority, I mean the vast majority. Uh, every once in a while, you get somebody who gets 10% of the funds to the good cause and keeps 90%. That is not that is naughty list material. But those that are really doing it in order to do good for children, to bring happiness to children, I am a big supporter of that because, as others have mentioned, there is one day a year I get to spread that happiness, and those that want to use my likeness and my persona to spread happiness for a little bit longer time, I'm a big supporter of.
Yeah, the reason that they're stealing identity does seem like an important bit of information.
Right, exactly.
Akira would like to know how long did it take to create the Polar Express, and did you
Well,
have a part in the creation of the train and tracks?
obviously, in order to connect with the North Pole with our workshop. And I think you all realize that when I say the North Pole, I don't mean the magnetic North Pole, and I don't mean the geographical North Pole. I do mean the North Pole where we have the workshop and the village and all of that. Uh, but obviously we had to have some partnership in order to get it built so they could connect at the North Pole. But the actual building was outsourced, and we simply supported it as a way to reach out to and to keep the magic of Christmas alive for those who might otherwise be fading away from it.
That makes a lot of sense, especially since we did discuss how busy and lacking of funds you were unable to get more elves. So I would
Right,
imagine it
and
would take a lot of elves to build a train track like that.
indeed, it did. In fact, going back to a previous question, and one of the reasons the answer to that question was so important is we actually imported some skilled labor from the penguins. They're terribly slow walkers, but they're very fast swimmers. And so, for some of the places where we had to go across some bodies of water, they were very helpful in building that. And again, we've got a good relationship with them. I don't think, Akira, that I answered your question about how long it took. And the honest reason for that is because I don't actually recall exactly. Obviously, we started after the invention of trains, uh, but it was pretty soon after that, so maybe 1800s, and uh, and continuing on through until probably 30 or 40 years ago before it was fully complete.
Well, that is that is a very long construction progress. Although it does make sense with the age of the Polar Express being made by a company that did unfortunately go under in the 50s, Lima Locomotive Works. I guess that I guess the North Pole money wasn't quite enough to keep them in business, unfortunately.
Yes, I think we were their last major project, and obviously for some of you that live in cities, that may sound like the road construction projects where you live, but trust me, ours was longer.
Yeah, a train from the North Pole, I would imagine, has some significant technological or even magical hurdles to go through, especially since I would guess a lot of the way you're going across not solid land. There's a lot of ice in the way.
Right, exactly.
From Akira, the actual North Pole is really just to turn away, like Iceland. It's called Iceland even though it's green, and Greenland is Greenland even though it snows. So yeah, the North Pole. You can correct me if I'm wrong here, Nick. The North Pole is not actually perfectly located on either the geographical or the magnetic North Pole. It is just somewhere in the north.
That's correct. And obviously, we'll go back to the tourist question from later. We keep it secret exactly where it is, but yes, it's in the far northern hemisphere. We'll say that.
That yeah, we we would hate to uh, give away your exact location to anyone on the naughty list who may have nefarious plans for it.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
See, so guns and knives. Do the penguins accept fish as payment, or do they request real money?
Oh, they're very sophisticated, and while it would be tempting to just feed them fish as payment, many of them have quite varied tastes. Of course, they still want fish, but they want to be able to vary their diet, which means they want to be paid in cold, hard North Pole currency cash.
That that makes sense. And I personally have not seen any physical North Pole currency. Is that because it is a magical currency that is magically kept out of the hands of normal people, or is it just something that is so incredibly rare that there just isn't a lot of it around?
Well, it's really a combination of both of those things. There have been a few that have seen the currency and and have tried to pick it up and found that it vanished when they got close to it to pick it up. And most of those people would then decide that they had been hallucinating or were somehow confused or seeing things. But there's also just not very much of it
Yeah,
in terms of world economy. Anyway, it is
that is true.
extremely valuable. So it's got high purchasing power, but there's not a lot of it.
That makes sense. Maybe I'll have to take a second look at that penny on the ground that turned out to be a piece of gum next time.
Yes, that is actually one of our common deceptions is to make it look like something you would never want to touch.
Well, I would imagine that is very effective because I don't want to pick up that. Uh,
Exactly.
Guns and knives. Anyone who has nefarious intentions for the North Pole will have to go through you. I think there are a lot of people who would be willing to stand up to defend the North Pole in the workshop. If for no other reason, then some of them may just need a little extra bump to try and get on the nice list.
Well, that's very noble and appreciated. But of course, I haven't told you where the North Pole Workshop actually is, so to actually physically defend it will be difficult, but I do appreciate the intent.
Yeah, the what is it? Intent is half the battle. I don't think that's quite right. Uh,
But it's close enough.
yeah, it's good enough. The intent, genuine intent, may get you a little higher on the nice list, perhaps.
Right, right.
Might be trying to schmooze your way up the nice list just before Christmas there.
Although if your intent is just to smooze your way up the nice list, now that harms your intent.
That is true. I may be going down the nice list. Only someone like like Nick here would be able to know your true intent. I'm only guessing.
But Guns and Knives, I do appreciate the thought and the welcoming attitude that that shows toward the spirit of Christmas.
But I do I know that uh is a very busy time of year for you. So I don't want to keep you too long. We have kept you for almost 2 hours now. Uh, so I want to be sure that everyone on the nice list is getting all the good stuff. And I'm not sure if you are still handing out coal to the naughty listers since it is such a valuable resource now. Maybe sticks or something. But don't want to keep you way too
Yes,
long.
with coal being much more valuable than it used to be, certainly it is not a very good naughty gift anymore. There are some who would take advantage of being naughty to try to gather a nest egg, if you will. So uh, sometimes I try to give something that is far less valuable uh, to those on the naughty list. NFTs are a common one these days
Oh,
because people think they have value, but they generally do not.
that is very smart, and it literally costs you nothing, I would guess.
Exactly, exactly. So,
So
well, I have really enjoyed the time. The time has flown by, and trust me, I know about time flying by.
I would
But
imagine. So
indeed,
I
indeed. So,
will
Count, with
as I was saying, I will
I'll let
let you
you
get
focus.
back to your preparations. I'm sure there is much to be done.
Indeed, there is. Thank you all for spending the time with me, and have a fantastic night. And of course, I cannot leave without saying Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
A very Merry Christmas to you as well, uh, and good luck on spreading that holiday cheer this year, because we very much need it.
Indeed, indeed, the world needs it, and I will do my best. You all can help me out. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You have a good Christmas.
Goodbye.
All right. So there was Santa. Santa for everyone. he's a a fantastic guy as always. Which, let's be honest, it's not surprising. Of course, Santa's a great guy. And we had some ads right there at the end for for those who missed Santa saying goodbye there because of the ads. He wishes everyone a Merry Christmas, uh, and hopes everyone is able to spread the Christmas cheer this year. So straight from Santa himself. And obviously I don't have access to the good, naughty, and nice list. And I think we only had one question. Someone trying to get onto the naughty list. I have some suspicions on who that is. SCP-1471. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Annoying little sister. You just got here. Did you miss Santa? You just missed him. You missed him by minutes, if that. The video will still be there. It will be on YouTube for a while as well, forever as well. Probably going to be going up onto YouTube on Christmas Day. We'll schedule that one to go YouTube on Christmas Day if anyone would like to watch it there as well. Exclamation point archive for the archive streams. Yes, you just missed Santa. He was here for 2 hours and just headed out to finish preparations for Christmas. So that unfortunate timing for sure. But unfortunately, I think I also am going to have to head out for today. It is the Christmas season, so Santa obviously is the busiest of us, but I also do have things to do as well. So we are probably going to not me too. Don't worry, I will be back. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow for one last stream before the new year, and then I will be back after that. I'm not gonna be disappearing on you all forever. If you miss me too much, there are streams hanging around. Red Dead 2 tomorrow. There is no plans for tomorrow, so that's not a solid no on that one. But probably some just chatting tomorrow, and then see where that leads to. So that will be tomorrow. Thank you everyone today who's hung around, talked with Santa today, submitted questions, asked questions in chat. So I'm telling you this chance. There is not no chance, is what I'm saying. There's not no chance. We will see how tomorrow goes. But for now, we will be closing it out, raiding out. So we will be raiding out. If anyone has any raid suggestions for people to go and raid into, feel free to let me know. This is quite a bit earlier than I usually end, so I'm not. I don't know who's on right now. What's in the vault? The vault is where all the guns come from for the gun gachapon. The vault is where all the guns are loaded up into the gachapon, and then you get them with the gun gachapon redeem. So that is what is in the vault. Don't mind if I do. Take a nice Croatian bullpup. Me and Gotcha have a pond. A pond? First of all, me and Gotcha, not roommates, do in fact live very far apart. So if we had a pond, it would be more likely to be a river to to be able to stretch between us. But we do not. So, no ponds. If I had a pond, I would probably also have land, which would be nice for shooting. Would also probably make it easier to make pre-recorded content, which I am still planning on doing, by the way. First of all, yes, yes. First of all, this is a rumor that just keeps spreading. At least it's better than where the same person We're the same person rumor. That is that is at least better. Let's see, who do we raid? If I had land, would I mag dump out the window on stream? If I had enough land, and specifically my window was pointing towards land, and hopefully a berm, it would be not an impossibility. It would be not an impossibility. Also, probably not anything with a break that was too large. So, no XCR shooting out the window, because that's got a very aggressive break on it for sure. If different voices and speech patterns totally share a shipping container house. Does this behind me look like a shipping container house? Unbelievable. People these days, I tell you. I'm not in a shipping container. As cool as one of those shipping container tiny homes would be, I am not in one. Yes, we do. We do have different speech patterns, very different sized hands. We both have hand cams. Our hands are very, very much different. But let's see, to raid out. Who do we raid? Maybe let's raid. It is canon. It is the established lore of gotcha guns and X count. Oh no, the lores are crossing. Oh no, we're crossing lores. We're going to raid out. We're going to raid Heavenly Father. So Heavenly Father currently playing Marvel Rivals. He's playing Marvel Overwatch. He's pretty cool. I am a fan of Heavenly Father. I usually don't get to watch him much because he streams earlier in the day, and I'm usually doing stuff. So it's nice to be able to get to raid him. Crossing lores. It's only one lore. Oh my, unbelievable. But we do have raid messages. So if you would like, please do copy those to use. Tomorrow is going to be last stream before Christmas. I will be returning. What day will I be returning? Probably early next week. I'll try to release a schedule on time. So early next week, I will be returning after tomorrow. I'll still be here tomorrow. Don't worry. Standard stream tomorrow. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. Hanging out with me, hanging out with Nick.